everybody, and this is Cody Dericks with Next Best Picture. I am so excited to be talking with the director of the new horror thriller Bone Lake, Mercedes Bryce Morgan. How are you doing today, Mercedes?
Hi, I'm great. I'm so excited to talk to you about this.
I'm excited to talk to you too, so glad we're both in the same boat here. All right, so I just want to start at the very beginning. How did you first get involved with this project? Because the screenplay is written by Joshua Friedlander, so I want to know Joshua Friedlander. So I want to know what the script, how it spoke to you when you were when it came across your desk.
Yeah, totally. So my agent sent me the script, and I think it's just because people know that I get excited about things that make me feel uncomfortable. And especially something that people have an audible, visceral reaction to. And I think I'm also a very sex positive person who's not afraid of that. So people are like, oh, Mercedes, sex positive weirdo. Let's give this script to her.
Not the worst Twitter bio in the world right there. So.
Totally.
So what was it like directing somebody else's screenplay? Because it looks like you have a nice mix of films that you had a hand in writing and some you just directed, and this is just a directing job for you.
Yeah, I think it's making sure. I kind of look at making a movie is almost like dating and finding a partner where you're like, ooh, look what this person is bringing. And I want to make sure that we have the same life goals with this baby movie that we're creating. And so it's something that really spoke to me, but I felt like I could bring myself into it more. And so, kudos to it being such an already amazing script, but there's things I wanted to bring into it myself. Like, for example, our protagonist, Sage, something that we added into the script is that she fakes her orgasms in her relationship. And that's something I've talked to so many women about. And people are like, yes, I have done that before. And I don't know why I'm doing this. And it probably doesn't go well in their relationship. And so there's things like that I wanted to thread into it. Or even something else we added after the fact was the absolutely bare-ass naked couple running in the beginning from a bow and arrow. I said, let's go bigger and better instead of going home right in the beginning.
Impossible to not watch that introduction and go, oh, it's such a striking way to start the movie.
I wanted, oh my. Yeah.
People are settling in with their popcorn, and then there's that.
Yes.
Good call.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up the character of Sage. I want to specifically say I was really impressed by Maddie Hasson's performance. All four of the actors are excellent, but she's really phenomenal. So I want to know what it was like working with your quartet of actors.
Yeah, I think it's, we're an indie film, and so we have a really intensely short, intense shooting schedule. And so it's having people I know that I can trust. Like, for example, Maddie, I've never seen Maddie do a bad take in her entire life. She just has this naturalism to her where I go, oh yeah, people scratch their faces that way when they're thinking, or just this is how they process things. And so knowing that it was going to be a good take every time and choosing the flavor that we wanted out of that was something that was really important. And I think also because our movie gets to be so absurd and over the top where we go, I wanted to have this grounded base with our protagonists. So we care for them and we feel what they're going through the whole time.
Well, that totally reads. And part of that grounded base that you're talking about, I think, comes from the level of familiarity that the couples have with each other. Did you do any specific work or exercises to get them to bond in that way, or were they just that good?
Yeah, I mean, when Will and Sin came in, I think, they were I made them do some ridiculous dancing exercises together where I said, let's put on some music and just be silly together. Mm-hmm. And they might have thought, why is Mercedes putting me through what feels like a kindergarten class? But it's so hard to meet someone and only know them for a couple days and then act like you're supposed to be this comfortable around them. And so I think it was a lot on the actors' part too of just finding ways to bond with each other right away. But I think it really shows.
Definitely. Now, I want to talk your camera work, which to me is the thing that jumped out the most. You've such creative use of the camera in this film. Thinking of moments where the camera takes on the perspective of inanimate objects that you wouldn't expect or moves in specific ways. So did you extensively pre-plan your shots, or was it kind of a combination of improvisational?
Yeah, very extensively pre-planned. There is an entire version of this movie that exists where it's me going around the house with the DP, almost acting out the scenes, and we made them into GIFs to put into our shot list. So you'll see me sitting in a bathtub and then me running through a doorway. And I think that's just kind of what it takes to do something where we're going this fast. But then I also kind of want to leave room up to the actors. So I'll plan these really specific, intense moments. But then if they find something on the day, for example, when we see Will and Sin dancing in the hallway outside of a locked door, that was totally improvised by our actors. And I didn't want to limit them. And it's a lot of people's one of their favorite moments in the movie where they go, yes, the silliness.
Yeah, that moment's great.
Yeah.
Now, this house, it's kind of a cliche to say that a location is as much a character as any of the humans in the movie, but it's really true with this movie. Was that a existing property, or were there sets? What was the situation here? Both.
It was an existing property that existed on this lake. We went and saw all the houses that exist on lakes that exist in Georgia. And we found this one. This was our baby. But there is no house that exists that has a perfect hallway going down to these 3 doors that are enticing you to these ominous rooms. So we built a set into our house. The actual house, when you go past those doors, it's a garage and like basically a storage room. And so we recreated that into what the crazy rooms in our movie end up being.
I mean, garages can be scary, but I think what
That's
you did
true.
was better.
But not sexy. Or they could. You know, it's what you choose to do with your garage. So
I don't have a garage, but if I did.
You do.
So this movie is not what I would call tame in any way. What was it like working with the extensive gore and makeup effects that are present in this film?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite things to do because there's so many pieces we have to shoot and think about, because when a scene really hits, you know, for example, you should see the look on someone's face and cut to someone else's, and you establish that tension. You see the weapon leave their hand and go into another person's face. And so just making sure that we had the time to do those in a way where it is really impactful, but then also track blood continuity. So someone's covered head to toe, but the blood splatters them from the right. And then we need to maintain that over 4 more nights. So it's a really crazy process, but it's one of my favorite things to do in filmmaking.
I've always thought blood continuity must be a real pain in the ass to keep track of.
Yeah, no, I have this image burned in my brain of it being 4 a.m. one night, and the whole looks team bringing up the actors to me and being like, how are we looking? And they're covered in head to toe. I'm like, I think that blood splatter on the right cheek doesn't match what we shot yesterday, and like bringing up iPhone photos and looking. But it's a blast.
Dream job.
Yeah.
I want to talk about you as a filmmaker in general. So you've worked a lot on music videos in the past. What about those types of projects helped you grow into the filmmaker you are now? Are there any sort of lessons or techniques you've taken from your time in music videos as a feature filmmaker?
Yeah, I think music videos kind of allow you to experiment and try different things until you find your voice. And so by doing music videos, I've learned I'm someone that likes to move the camera a lot, and I like to twirl it and move it around. But I also tried a lot of things that I realized weren't me. And so by being able to do 100 other projects before I even stepped into doing my first feature, it let me discover who I was before instead of after.
I kind of assumed the camera technique was something, the general flexibility of the camera you exhibit was a music video holdover. So
yeah,
hold on to that spirit, because
Thank you. Thank you.
So what, if any, horror influences were you drawing from, whether it was specific titles or filmmakers in general with this film, or were there any non-horror influences that spoke to you?
Totally. There were so many, but just to kind of like rattle off some, a non-horror influence is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, because pitting couple against couple, but then a horror influence of that is Speak No Evil, or just looking at The One I Love. And because I wanted to make sure that the drama elements are really there, because for such a large portion of the movie, we're existing in this, you know, dramatic dialogue scene space before we go for it with our action. But then also Evil Dead 2 will forever and always be a great shot design reference because it's fucking genius. Or things like Clockwork Orange of just how would you imagine this scene in a certain way? You know, like for example, it's a weird it was a weird inspiration, but in Clockwork Orange, there's the threesome scene where you see it sped up. And so we also have a scene where it's very different, but she falls asleep. And I thought we should just speed up through the night and then match cut to bring us into day. So just little things like that that you just kind of carry in your core and comes out in different ways when you're filmmaking.
Man, I would have loved to have seen Elizabeth Taylor in this movie. It's the only thing you were missing.
Me too. Yes, I agree.
So horror in general is my thing. It's my bread and butter. It is my first love in film. And I always like when I speak to people who work in horror, I want to know what about the genre speaks to you as an artist. What about it inspires you or draws you in? Just what does horror do for you?
Yeah, I think there's so many different types of horror, so I can answer this in a different way for each subgenre. But I think overall, I think I'm this emo goth kid who kind of grew up into how I am now, and that's kind of who I am in the inside. And I think it's so cool to have what's considered weird and uncomfortable be accepted in the mainstream and supported and given money and backing and have an audience and reach, where some of those people are also my fellow emo kids, but then there's also people of every type of person that also can go enjoy it. And so that's something that's really exciting to me, is because I always wanted to make art, but art that people go and see and go to the theater and go watch. So I think it's that, but I think it's also just an escape where I get bored with my reality so easily. And so I love seeing things that I don't see in my everyday life, and especially comedic horror. Something's uncomfortable and I want to laugh and relieve myself of that is something I've always looked for.
I feel like the best advice any artist can give to another artist is be true to what makes you different or special or unique. So I'm glad you held on to that weird emo goth kid energy.
Dude, that's the best. If my 12-year-old self could hear this, she'd be like, yeah.
All right, Mercedes, thank you so much for spending time with me today. Before I let you go, do you have anything else on the horizon you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I continue to work in the horror thriller space, but I'm also excited. Another movie I have coming up is a surrealist dramedy. And so I just really love things that are lifted, and I can't speak about them yet, but I'm excited for people to see those in the future.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, I'm so excited for people to see Bone Lake in the meantime. And thanks so much again for chatting with me today.
Thank you.